gathered together from the cosmic reaches of the universe, here in this great hall of justice, are the most powerful forces of good ever assembled. Superman, Batman and Robin, Wonder Woman, Aquaman,
and Meg.
dedicated to truth, justice, and peace for all mankind.
Wait, don't go in there. He's doing his podcast.
What's going on, everyone? It's Danny here, solo, and I'm here to give you my review for the Justice League film. Now, this is going to be spoiler-free, so I'm not going to get too deep into it. Chris hasn't seen it. Nick is not here. He hasn't seen it. I saw it with X yesterday, but X is not present, so, yeah. So, anywho, so, to be pretty, short and sweet about this, I've been pretty excited for this film since it was announced. I know there was a lot of shit with BVS, Batman vs. Superman. A lot of people hated it. Some people liked it. I'm one of the people that actually enjoyed that movie for the most part, though there was a lot of shit crammed into it, and I felt like they could have done things differently. I saw more good than bad in that film. Like the parts that there was parts in the movie that stood out to me and made me enjoy it more than the things that I disliked. I love the tone. A lot of people hate the tone. They feel like, oh, it's too dark, too gloomy, too serious, but I like that in a film, especially in superhero films, because you want to kind of feel like whatever villain or event that is bad that's happening in the film, you want it to feel like it's bad. Not like, oh yeah, don't worry, the heroes are going to be fine, the world's going to be saved. You kind of want to give that dark, gloomy feeling of no hope, and I felt that's what that movie did, and it definitely was setting up for certain things, and the reason why that movie was as dark as it was because that was the point. But like I said, there were things wrong with it. There was a lot of shit crammed into it that shouldn't have been crammed into it. The arcs in that movie should have been their own movie within themselves. But like I said, there was more, in my opinion, there was more good than bad that stuck out in that movie. So going into Justice League, a lot of people were worried because of the fact that movie was heavily bashed, and I guess rightfully so for the most part. So yeah, like a lot of people, with Zack Snyder directing it, people are like hanging him or whatever. And then Suicide Squad, like initially when I saw that, I enjoyed it the first time around. Wasn't exactly what I would hope it was going to be. I really thought it was going to be Fury, but with Suicide, with DC characters, but that didn't turn out that way. But then, like, I don't know, after, like, I enjoyed it the first time, then the more I thought about it, I saw it a second time. I haven't seen it since. I don't know, I just felt like there was good movies within that, but not what it should have been. And I don't blame David Ayer for that, even though he claims the final cut is his, and I still believe that movie was a product of shitty Warner Brothers direction, so to speak. But anywho, so there was Wonder Woman came out earlier this year, and that actually sort of kind of shift the tone as far as people's perspective about what's to come with the DC universe. But like I said, Batman vs Superman really had like a big negative cloud over everybody's hopes and the potential of the future of this extended universe. But Wonder Woman was relatively a lot. It had a lot of positive feedback. So Justice League came out, and I felt it was going to be fine because of the simple fact that BVS crammed a lot of things into that movie that it shouldn't have. But Justice League is more of a straightforward thing, no matter how you cut it. I mean, heroes come together to stop a greater threat. It's not that complicated of a story to tell, even if you try to make it a little deeper than it should be. But anywho, so if people don't know this, I'm pretty surprised. But Zack Snyder had to step down earlier this year before the film was fully finished. Before it was fully finished, because his daughter had committed suicide. So he kind of you kind of understand why he would step down from a big project like this with that weighing down on him. So Josh Whedon took over. Didn't really do much, just a couple cosmetic things, some reshoots from what I heard. I heard he reshot some Superman things. I wasn't too happy about that. Nothing really against Josh Whedon, just the simple fact that everybody was going crazy, like it was a good thing. But if he's gonna come in and change shit when Zack Snyder was pretty much like 90% done with the film, that's just like begging for disaster. But I wasn't too worried about it because I like to see the final product before it's done. And like I said, I figured he wasn't doing much to it to mess up the film, not to just mess up what Snyder did or whatever. But then it kind of. So initially, the movie was supposed to be close to 3 hours long, or exactly 3 hours long, and that's fine by me because you have a movie that hasn't really set up origins for most of the superheroes that are in it. Justice League is a pretty big deal, not only with the heroes but also with the villains and the potential setup of what's to come. But they cut an hour from the film, and that right there, it bugged the shit out of me because you have a movie that hasn't established most of its heroes for the most part. I mean, if you're a comic book fan, you know the origins and you don't really have to be spoon-fed. But the fact that, they're doing this, cutting an hour from a film like this, it's kind of like, dude, what are you doing? And, I mean, all in all, after watching the film, that really didn't hurt the film. And that's probably my only gripe with this movie is that I feel like, though it didn't really mess up the tone and it didn't really damper anything, I just felt like if you would have kept at least a half an hour from that hour that you cut, there could have been a lot more done with this film. It was relatively simple, which is fine, but like I said, there was parts where it felt like it went from one point to another, and I know movies could do that. It's not a big deal. I don't look at that as a plot hole because sometimes there's things that you don't need to know that this person flew from here to there to get to there. It's just common sense. But it just felt a little weird. It felt like they just were rushing through the movie just to cram in as many showings in theaters as they could, and just afraid that people would be turned off by a long movie, which. Like I said, if it flows well and it's action-packed and there's a compelling story and the characters are likable, then there's no reason as to why you have to rush through it. But that was my only gripe with the film. Outside of that, I felt it really did it, no pun intended, it did the Justice League justice. All the characters were likable. There was a slight tone change, which you could kind of see in the trailers early on after the first trailer. You kind of see a little tonal change, and that's fine. It wasn't too super happy-go-lucky. There were some jokes that were made throughout the movie, some lighthearted characters, but there are genuinely lighthearted characters in the Justice League. Not everybody's dark like Batman. But all in all, the characters were fine. I liked the interaction. it didn't feel forced, though it felt kind of quick. Nothing in this movie really felt like overdone or underdone. Everybody had their time to shine. Nobody really took over the spotlight in a bad sense. Like, nobody was left out. Yeah, so that aspect of it was cool. It really got right to the point, so that was fine. And the villain. Now, here's the thing with the villain. Steppenwolf, without spoiling anything, wasn't the most menacing villain. Now, I know in comic lore he's probably a little more menacing than he was in the movie, but this is no surprise. They're definitely gonna set up for Darkseid. This is not a spoiler. This is just if you have any common knowledge of what they're going to do. I mean, Marvel is set up for Thanos in their universe. So who's the biggest villain in DC lore? And that's Darkseid for the most part. And obviously Steppenwolf is pretty much the right-hand man for Darkseid. For the most part, Darkseid's not a guy that's gonna sit there and be a little bitch and hide behind things, but he, Steppenwolf is like almost like a scout, so to speak, or whatever. Like he's the boss before you get to Darkseid. So if you know anything about DC lore, then you know that they're leading up to Darkseid, whether it happens in the next movie or whether it happens later on. That's we'll find out soon. But that's what they're setting up for, and that had me excited. So I knew that Steppenwolf wasn't going to be this total, like, sort of be-all, end-all villains where just like, they have to give it their all and just to beat him when the next thing is the next villain's coming up. The next villain that's coming up is Darkseid, when Darkseid is that guy. So Steppenwolf wasn't horrible. I wonder if he wasn't bad at all. I mean, like it wasn't a bad character. They didn't really put too much into him, and that's fine. And if people are complaining about that in this movie to try to knock it, when pretty much all the Marvel villains outside of anything that's been in the Captain America films with Hydra, all the Marvel villains have been lackluster. I mean, Ultron was a huge letdown. And I'm hoping that Thanos isn't that letdown villain. But that's a topic for another podcast. But yeah, so if anybody's knocking the Justice League for that, that's kind of dumb when I haven't seen any Marvel villain really stand out like that, where you feel like it's he or she is a complete threat. I haven't seen Thor Ragnarok, but I still don't think that even has that kind of villain. So Steppenwolf wasn't horrible, but like again, you have to realize they are leading into something way bigger than Steppenwolf. So I thought the Parademons were awesome. They were spot on for the most part, how they were in the comics and in the animated series. They looked very well. The Justice League, their costumes looked awesome. I really liked Aquaman's costume. It was pretty cool. Batman, I've always been a fan of Ben Affleck's Batman costume. Flash's costume looked cool. Wonder Woman's costume was the same. And Cyborg was actually a really good character. Like, I know I didn't really dig too deep into the characters, and I don't want to get into that yet till we do our spoiler review. But Cyborg was a big question mark on... not really a big question mark. I mean, he works well with Justice League. I don't know if he really deserves his own solo movie. But he was well done for what... for the little amount of time they spent on his character. I wonder if the extra hour will delve a little deeper into things, because it's just kind of like, all he really said was, I got into an explosion. That's it. That was his thing. But yeah, so all the characters were cool. The designs were cool. I didn't really have too much of a problem with Steppenwolf's design. He actually looked pretty solid. Yeah, so the action was pretty much action-packed throughout. There was never really a dull moment. Yeah. It was a proper Justice League film. Could it have been better? Yeah, definitely so. But I'm definitely like positive about what's to come, what they're setting up to. My thing is this: Rotten Tomatoes. Last night, I think the last time I checked, it was at like 34%, more or less. Now, you gotta understand, a lot of these people are not into comic books. You can tell that right off the bat. So why would most people spend like not spend? Why would they formulate an opinion based on the opinion of someone who is not into comic books at all? Like, you can tell. Like, there are bad comic book movies out there. There are some comic book movies where you don't have to be a comic book fan to enjoy it, and I get that. But there are a lot of comic book films where the plot's nothing special. The story, the villains are not that great. It's pretty much, we've seen it a million times, just maybe in a different suit, a different person, a different setting. And that is the same for many comic book or superhero films or whatever. But, if you're a comic book fan, you enjoy it more. So these people, like, you go to the people that reviewed Power Rangers. Now, you can tell right off the bat that these people have no interest in seeing Power Rangers. They never cared about Power Rangers, yet they're sitting there reviewing a movie and shitting on a movie that they really have no ties to. So, like, my thing is, as a fan or whatever, if you're remotely interested in, say, Justice League, Wonder Woman, Avengers, whatever it may be, if you're super into comic books, you're not super into comic books, or the trailer caught your interest, go see it for yourself. Like, I'm kind of tired of people like, oh, Rotten Tomatoes gave it this and that, or oh, my friends said it sucked. Like, if your friends ate shit and they said it was good, are you gonna eat it? Some of my friends are into different girls. But, like, am I going to date the girls they're into? Are they dating the girls I'm into? No. So it's like we do our own thing. So everybody should go and formulate their own opinion as opposed to, going by reviews. Now, it's nice if the movie you want to see or a movie you like is getting rave reviews. That's always cool. But if I don't know, if you're into something, go see for yourself. You may like it. It may not be perfect, but you may enjoy it. There's plenty of movies out there that are, beat up by critics, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I still stand by my decision that Watchmen is the greatest comic book film ever. I thought it had a lower rating on Rotten Tomatoes. They gave it a 60%, which is still lower than what I would give it. But again, that's my opinion. You got to look at a movie like The Shining. The Shining, when it initially came out in the theaters, critics knocked it. They hated it. But it's considered as one of the greatest horror films ever. Top 10 in most people's list, even top 5, maybe even number 1. So you got to understand that everybody has their own opinion. So again, if you're into comic books, if you're into superheroes, if you're into Batman or Superman or just Flash, whatever, go see it. Go give it a shot yourself, because you sit there and it's unfair because these critics will go and bash the movie, and then that automatically turns people off from seeing it, and then like some people just will have it in their head that it's a bad film just because other people said that. Like, go into that episode of Stranger Things that everybody hates. Like, if people didn't go on the internet bashing that episode, would people have felt the same way they felt about it? So it's like, my thing is like, if Batman vs. Superman wasn't beat up by critics the way it was, would the fan outlook be the same? Like, would people have hated it as much as they do if they didn't see the reviews? So my thing is, go see it. I personally liked it a lot. I definitely want to watch it again. Hopefully I get a chance to catch it one more time at least. But I really enjoyed it. Like I said, could it have been better? Yes, it definitely could have been way better. Did that hour cut from it and make it less of a good film? Not really. It didn't hurt it, but would it have made it better? That remains to be seen. So I'm definitely looking forward to the director's cut. So, case in point, I like Justice League a lot. I recommend my friends to go see it. Whether you hated Batman vs. Superman, whether you love Batman vs. Superman, I'd say go see it. So yeah, that's that. We'll be back probably within the week to give you a spoiler review. Just want to make sure that everybody here sees it. I don't want to be talking about spoilers when certain people in the room didn't watch the movie or whatever. So once we all get to see it, then we'll hit you with some spoiler reviews. There was some really interesting shit that happened that I want to talk about. And yeah, we'll be back with a spoiler review. And we've got Punisher coming up. It's actually out today, so we're going to start watching that tonight. Finish it up tomorrow. And we've got New Japan Pro Wrestling World Tag Team Tournament. And then NXT TakeOver tomorrow and Survivor Series on Sunday. So there's a lot to talk about. Oh, and Godzilla, if that actually did come out. If you guys want more Justice League content, just check out the Beardmaster Tom's review on imtbg.com or Geek Ronin on YouTube. He's going to be posting his review of Justice League tonight, so go check that out. And make sure you hit subscribe on his channel, on the Successfully Failing channel, and tune in. We'll be back for some more talk about all the other shit that's going on this weekend. So, if you guys are going to see Justice League, hope you enjoy it. Let me know what you guys think. Hit me up in the messages, the comments. Peace.